I've got a small art show in the next 3 days, and I've realised that I do not have anywhere near enough paintings for the show. So I'm going to do something that I've not done before, and I'm going to try and paint 3 pictures in 3 days. Got my 3 pictures up on my wall easel. We've got a chimp, a gorilla, and a lion. I've already used half a day getting these sketched out and planned. Sometimes I don't think people realise just how long it takes to actually plan and prepare a picture before you even start getting to the painting. I've got about 2.5 days left for these pieces. I'm going to crack on and see where I can get up to today. You might be thinking that 3 pieces in 3 days is not that big a deal. That's only 1 a day. But for me, it's quite a challenge, as some of my paintings can take weeks or even months to complete. I'm keeping these pieces quite simple and sticking to a single colour scheme for each piece. I have an ochre, an umber and a blue. I'm using an angled brush and a single colour for each painting to almost sculpt the form of the subjects in paint. I don't need to focus on colour, just shapes and shadows. The highlights are just the areas of the canvas that's left blank. I'm thinning down the paint, just using water to help establish values. The more water, the thinner the paint, the lighter the value. I've decided to work on each piece at the same time, getting each one to the same point before progressing to the next layers. As I don't really have an idea of how I want these finished pieces to look, this method allows me to adapt each piece as I paint it and come up with new ideas throughout the painting process. And here's the finished paintings. Nah, I'm only kidding. There's still loads to do on these pieces. This is just the end of day 1. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with these yet. I don't really have a plan. I don't even know if I'm going to stick to these colour schemes. I'm just winging it, trying to experiment a little bit more and just have a little bit of fun with these paintings. I've got about 2 days left to get these done, so wish me luck. Good morning. It is day 2 on this piece, or these pieces. I did a little bit more last night. I gave them all a little bit of a colour wash over the top of them, yellow, blue and an orange wash, and I also pre-mixed a set of colours. Here are the colours that I used. I've literally just done a scale of colours, adding black to the ones at the top and white to the ones at the bottom. I'm starting each piece with the darkest mid-value. It's just a tiny bit of white added to my original colour. I don't really want any specific detail in any of these pieces. I'm just trying to focus on the brushwork and getting them to look 3D. I'm building up lighter colours on top of the darker colours. And because I'm using acrylics, each layer is dry before the next one goes on. So there's very little muddying of the colours. The darkest colour I'm saving for last, as I don't want the paintings to look too dark. The lion is the most difficult to paint in this looser style. It's hard getting the right level of shape and form without putting in too much fur detail. It's much easier with the gorilla and the chimp because of the folds of skin in their faces. The skin gives enough detail to establish form, but not so much that I'm painting every single pore. The lion doesn't really have that. At least not on the face, it's got it in the mane. So getting the right value transitions on that face is even more important with the lion. I'm constantly trying to develop new styles and new ways of painting, and I think this has to be one of my absolute favourites. I feel like I can be way more free with the painting and be much bolder and more confident than if I was doing a super realistic piece, for example. Because I don't have to worry about colour, I'm just focusing on values, these pieces are coming together very quickly. So I'm about halfway through day 2 on these pieces. There's still quite a long way to go, but I'm really happy with how they're looking so far, and I cannot wait to carry on with them. I just got to have a little bit of lunch because I've not eaten all day, and then we're going to get cracking with the next stage. I'm not sure the line is quite right. The values on the face aren't quite light enough. I've mixed up an even whiter yellow and I'm adding a few more structural brush strokes to the lion to give it a little bit more form and look a little bit more 3D. Looking at all three next to each other, I need to do the same thing to the chimp and the gorilla too. I honestly don't think I would have been able to paint these pieces individually. Part of the fun of this process was seeing them all come to life at the same time. I want that to be reflected in the finished painting, so I'm adding some subtle bits of the other colours to each painting. The lion's going to get some blue and brown, the gorilla some of that yellow and umber, and the chimp some of that blue from the gorilla and the ochre from the lion. It is the end of day 2. I am pretty happy with how these guys are looking so far. Hopefully you can see them. There's still a little bit to do before I'm ready to call these finished. So hopefully tomorrow I'll get them done. Good morning. It is day 3 of my painting challenge, which means it is the final day to get these paintings done, finished and varnished. I forgot to cover these paints last night. Usually I cover them with cling film so they don't get skin on top. I don't really need them that much, but I need them a little bit. So let's just see if they're still... There's a little bit of a skin on them, but they should be okay still to use, which is really good. I'm surprised they stayed wet overnight. That's because I've mixed them with this acrylic retarder from Jackson's. I've done a whole video about using this, and I might put a link to that at the end of this video. I will also put a link to this product in the description as well. It's really good if you are an acrylic painter and you hate watching your acrylics dry on the palette. The exhibition is tomorrow. Oh, it's a show rather than an exhibition. And yeah, I've got a lot to get doing today. So I'm just going to jump in and get started. Sticking with the idea of trying to tie these pieces together, I decided I wanted to give them all the same background. I wanted to keep it quite neutral to balance those intense saturated colours of the faces, so I decided on grey. I didn't want it to be a boring flat background, so I mixed up a few different shades to add a little bit more variation and interest. I also decided on grey as it's usually a safe colour that matches loads of people's homes. I'm really into these grungy, varied backgrounds. I've always loved seeing a bit of abstract texture and interesting marks in paintings. It's something that you see in abstracts a lot, but not very often in realistic work. Then of course, pieces like this would not be complete without that trusty toothbrush splatter. And a few drip, drip, drips. Just before we get to the reveal of these brand new paintings, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that is supporting me on Patreon. I would not be able to do what I do without you guys. Right, let's get to the reveal. So it's been 3 days and I could not be happier with how these pieces have turned out. I actually think it's inspired a brand new series of paintings, which I cannot wait to get started on. Anyway, I will shut up, leave you to it, and show you the finished paintings. And here they are, all of the pieces in all of their glory. I've released a set of prints of these pieces, so you can head to studiowildlife.com and choose your favourite print. And if you can't choose between the three of them, I've got a full set of all three that come together as one image. As I said, just head over to my website to get yours now. I'll leave a link in the description or click on this video here to see how I use that Jackson's acrylic retarder that I mentioned earlier. It's amazing. It allows you to keep paint wet on your palette for months. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.